Shalom Aleichem again. We are in a different part of the tell here at Megiddo, and I'm standing inside of what archaeologists believe are the horse stables of Ahab. We have Ahab here, we have Solomon here, and again, as we're in the sacred area, civilization here all the way back to 4000 BC. They're fairly certain that these are Ahab's stables, and what I'm looking at is a stone bowl, a bowl that's carved out in the middle. I'm going to come over here and show you another one, because it's not so much Ahab that I'm concerned about here at the stables as it is something else. And I think it's critical in terms of what we're accomplishing here, and that's this one. This is one of those stone bowls that has been tipped over. You can see that indeed it has been carved out, and probably in Ahab's stables this would have been used for feeding of horses, certainly watering of horses, and this is called a manger. So indeed, all over Israel, this is a manger, and for the shepherds, they would actually carve this out in their sheep caves at night. And then we remember the Christmas story where it says that Mary had a baby boy, wrapped him in swaddling cloths, and laid him in a manger. And this is what it would have been. But we have just got done with the lesson here at Megiddo. And I believe this lesson that I'm about to do now follows that one. Because one of the things that we have to consider here, we have Ahab, we have Jezebel. We have certainly Jezebel being the high priestess of the worst cult, Baal cult of the Phoenicians, and they were involved in child sacrifice. And we took it all the way to the level of us today, where indeed children are being aborted, thousands per day. And we talked about God. Indeed, his heart is breaking because the bloods of each child aborted, not just the one, but of all the generations that would come from that one individual. And one of the things that we have to take a look at, and that is this. There are wonderful women out there that are Christian, and perhaps in an earlier time in their life they had an abortion. And they come to listen to the previous lesson in the Canaanite area, the sacred area, and they're reminded of the horror, and maybe you hear the word of God and the horror in God's heart for this type of death. Or it could be that you are a young lady that is maybe even considering abortion at this time. Or maybe have just gone through one. There's hope. There's just tremendous hope. And that's why I wanted to come here at Ahab's stable, the epitome of evil here in Israel, the epitome of evil for all of us, Ahab and Jezebel. Symbols of what you'd say is the epitome of evil for us in our culture. And to me, in my opinion, it's the taking of human life for convenience sake. Let's return to Genesis 15. And in Genesis 15, I'm not going to read it. You could read it for yourself, but you'll remember that God comes to Abraham, and Abraham says, how am I going to have all of these wonderful promises from you, Lord? And in Hebrew, the implication is, can we make a covenant? Not a business deal. A covenant is a living relationship, because it means Abraham wants to live with God. He wants God to live with him in a relationship where there's certain expectations of either side. And God says, indeed, Abraham, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to make a covenant with you. And that is, you're going to be given a place, his land. And we're standing in Abraham's land given to him by God. Second of all, you're going to be a blessing to all the nations. And we have to address that in light of abortion, in light of what happened here. Abraham would be a blessing for all nations. And third, he would have descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky. Now what happens a little bit later on in Genesis 15, and I'll read that portion, is God commands him to cut some animals up and let them flow, the blood flow into a channel. And Abraham is scared to death because he goes to sleep in terror. And so in Genesis 15, we come to that point, and let me go specifically, and here it is in verse 17. It came about when the sun had set that it was very dark, and behold, there appeared a smoking oven and a flaming torch which passed between these pieces. In Genesis chapter 15 and verse 17, there is something in the culture of Babylon, and this is where Abraham comes from. Abraham's not Jewish. Let's get that straight. Abraham's not Jewish. Jewish people come from the tribe of Judah. Judah hadn't been born yet. He's not even Hebrew yet, for the simple reason God hadn't made the covenant with him yet. He's coming from Babylon. This is what he is. He's coming from a pagan culture.